Up next on the Parth and Pratham show.
Like for example, when you're like in an argument with somebody and sometimes you just have to give in because they're just not going to let up. Sometimes like being the being the bigger man requires you just to like back out and just like accept it and like not engage, I guess.
It's the Parth and Pratham show.
COVID-19 is a deadly disease that spreads in many ways. It's safe to say that all cohorts of people have been affected: elementary school kids, teenagers, adults, and senior citizens. Many have been forced to quarantine and stay home, with only essential workers being allowed to leave to go to their jobs.
One such essential worker is Gunnar Holtzapple. He works at In-N-Out, the fast food restaurant. In-N-Out is an essential business during this time. Gunnar is a teenager and he joins us now. Thanks for joining us, Gunnar.
Thank you for having me.
All right, Gunnar, let's talk about your childhood. Where were you born?
So I was born in Oakland. I was at Alta Bates in it's like West Oakland or something like that. I'm basically raised in Dublin. Basically, my parents were like, uh, my parents are kind of like the old, like, 40 and 50s. They're kind of quote unquote boomers, I guess. And they're like kind of like old school as far as like how they um how to like bring up kids, I guess. So like, I know like a lot of like old stuff, and that's kind of like my upbringing is just knowing a lot of like old stuff, I guess.
So how long did you live in Oakland?
I didn't live in Oakland. I was born in Oakland, and then
Oh.
we had our house in Dublin, which I live in right now. So
What do you like to do for fun?
I like to play video games. um, Usually probably like 4 or 5 hours a day. Usually just like to play with my friends that are online. Um, I also like to go outdoors, sometimes hike even. Last year I went on a backpacking trip to Philmont in New Mexico, and it was like 60 miles backpacking, and that was actually really fun.
Have you gone backpacking before?
Before Philmont, I went on a few like training hikes, but before that, no, I hadn't gone backpacking.
Okay, yeah. So just in terms of, I just had a quick follow-up question. You said you know a lot of old stuff. Can you elaborate on that? Like, is it
Yes.
like, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, so usually like old songs and stuff like that. Like my dad listens to a lot of like old music, like 70s and 80s rock. So I'd get that, like I get my music taste from him, because in the car he would always play those types of songs, and then I'd always like say like turn it off, like I don't want to listen to that. But like now I'm kind of like I kind of like it. So
Wow, pretty interesting. So we just want to talk about the COVID crisis because that's why we have you here, because you're a teen worker.
mhm.
So, or a teen worker during this crisis. But because you're a teenager and you go to school, would you know that school has changed and it's gone to online or distance learning? What's your opinion of distance learning? Do you think it's successful? Does it help you learn?
I think it's a lot. I would say it's easier and harder than normal school learning, just because it's easier because you're eight to as time consuming as it would normally be, but also the drawbacks are, like, for example, in math it's really hard to learn, especially there when the teacher's there to like answer the questions that students have and be there like to help you out with the work. Instead it's just Zoom classes that you might not even be able to get a question in that you have. And I mean, a lot of teachers were flexible as far as office hours, and they were able to like sometimes even do like personal Zoom meetings to like help you out on some stuff. I of course like took some of those opportunities when I needed them. So
Would you say you did your work to the highest capability? Because I feel like I know a lot of people who were doing it for completion. Would you say like you tried to learn because there weren't really tests to see if you learned? So how did
Yeah.
you take that?
So at least for my English and my like science classes, I actually like try to like learn, especially because they would just give us assignments, and a lot of them were like notes, and then you'd have to write like summaries after them. So I actually try to learn a lot from those. As far as like my math classes and history classes, my history class especially was really hard because she was very unclear. Like sometimes miscommunication can be like the downfall of your grade, especially with distance learning. But um, I was able to. I mean, I don't think I learned. I think I just did it for completion, at least for those classes.
Yeah, so I don't want to be negative or anything, but let's just take a devil's advocate approach and say, what if school doesn't return to normal for like the next year and we're forced to do distance learning again? Do you think you'll have the same amount of learning as normal school? Because I know they're trying to implement like more like daily Zoom calls that are more like they reflect a class. But
Mhm.
do you think that you'll learn the same, or is it still going to be less?
I think it's still going to be less because it's not the same. It's not the same in person. You don't get. I mean, usually with like in person learning, you actually like because the thing. Let's see, how do I explain this? When you're like face to face with somebody and you make eye contact and you're actually like paying attention to what they're saying, you learn more and you're able to retain more information. So I feel like some kids that usually learn through in person, they will struggle through the distance learning. But then there's also the people that slack off and don't do all the work, and they just do 50% of it, which would be passing. So you got those people as well that would, I guess, benefit from this as well.
Continuing with this hypothetical scenario of not returning to school, we'll miss our senior year. So, was there anything maybe you were looking forward to during your senior year that you might not get this year?
Yeah, honestly, I would be looking forward to like senior sunrise and like senior picnic and basically all the football games, because like I haven't really gone to a lot of football games just because usually I've just been busy with all that stuff. Um, but as far as any like other events like graduation, like that might not be happening next year, so that would be a that'd be a big miss, and I feel really sorry for all the seniors, or for the class of 2020 especially, because they were the ones that missed out on like an actual graduation.
Yeah, you got to really feel for them.
Yeah.
So in addition to your like school life, you have a second life kind of where after school you're a teenage worker. You are at
Right.
the fast food chain In-N-Out. How long
hmm
have you been there?
So I've been there since around like November, is like early mid November, and I've been really working there ever since. Um, you want me to like talk about like how it is there, like how the working environment is?
Yeah, like how would you say you enjoy going there probably?
hmm Definitely. I think it's actually a really fun experience to work at In-N-Out, just because I've made a lot of friends there, and it's always good to see friends, and like sometimes you're able to like work with them during like, for example, outside sometimes there's someone with like a handheld device, and sometimes there's two of them, so I get to work like with someone else, and we just get like sometimes we just get to talk like on end, like if there's not really a lot of like cars to do. So honestly, it's really fun.
And so, what was the primary reason that you actually wanted to work at In-N-Out and that you actually signed up to work at In-N-Out?
Um, Honestly, it was one of my friends that like pushed me. He was like, "Hey, like you're 16, you should start like working, and you should work at In-N-Out." And then my mom really really like encouraged me, like, "Hey, like you should start working. Like you make your own money, you can get your own stuff, and all that stuff." Honestly, it's fun because uh because okay, my friend that like had me apply there and everything, he actually like stopped working there like right when I started, which was actually kind of funny because like it's really it was actually kind of sad because I was actually looking forward to working with him, but I still made new friends there anyway.
That is good. So friends are a big thing, right? Because it makes job or a workplace more fun. So
Hmm.
now that you're working at In-N-Out during the COVID-19 pandemic, what are reasons that you stay working? Because many people would just quit their jobs and leave because they're afraid of their health. What is the reason that you want to keep working through this pandemic?
Really, the reason I want to keep working is a lot of people, like you said, aren't working. So I'd like to get like the jump start and get like a lot of experience done, and like maybe like become, I don't know, high up in and out, and like really just start working towards my like career goals and everything like that. Just be able to, I don't know, spend my time elsewhere other than gaming because like I realize that I spend a lot of time on um, like gaming. I really need to like expand my horizons.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
that's. I mean, yeah.
Yeah. So that really develops a lot of character because you're kind of giving up, like you're almost sacrificing your life in a way to
Right.
work in and out because you don't know the risk of what's gonna happen, but you're still committed to the social organization.
Yeah.
What would you say your biggest takeaway is has been as working in and out? Did you learn any new life lessons? Any maybe skills you could use for your future?
Honestly, like customer service and more of like salesmanship, I guess, or like treating people kindly even though they really like sometimes they don't deserve it. Um, I think is a really good life lesson because like when you're, for example, when you're like in an argument with somebody and sometimes you just have to give in because they're just not going to let up. Sometimes like being the being the bigger man requires you just to like back out and just like accept it and like not engage, I guess.
You were talking a little bit earlier about how your parents encouraged you to get this
Hmm.
job.
Yeah.
Has their opinion about it, changed about you working during this crisis? Do they feel comfortable sending you to In
Yeah.
and Out?
Yeah, definitely. Because the In-N-Out sent like an email out. Let's see, it was actually when like the pandemic started. It was around March, and they were like, "Hey, like we're we're like working on like a plan to like keep all of our employees safe. Like do the necessary like checks. So usually every time we go in, we get screened. We get like a or it is like a thermometer reading. Like they put like a reader up to your head and they like check for a fever, I guess. And then they ask you three questions. Have you been in contact with anybody with COVID? Any relatives? Do you think you have COVID? And they'll usually ask you those questions, and then you should be fine. And they also added like 50 hours towards sick pay in case you did get coronavirus. So then you could like you're able to take that time off instead of having to sacrifice uh, money to money for it. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So just you talked about a few protocols that In-N-Out has basically created in order to keep their employees safe. What are other things that they do? Is there anything else besides these protocols and the sick pay thing?
Um, they make sure that they also make sure that we wear masks. Of course, all businesses are required to like wear masks when they're working and everything like that. But also, they want to they want to make sure that we're staying safe. So like when we're out on handheld, we have to stay 6 feet away. Also wear gloves as well. And basically everyone that is working there should be wearing gloves, no matter like where you're at. So it's those are like usually like the precautions.
Does it? So you said explain your role as having a handheld device. Like what's your primary task when you have
So
a
your
handheld
primary
device?
task is to like take orders, and usually it gives the cooks a heads up. So like for example, if there's an order like 15 cars back, they'll have it ready by the time you reach the window. so it won't take as long to make it. So like for example, sometimes we'll have the speaker on, like in case it's raining or in case it's early in the morning. But otherwise we'll have the handheld outside ready to take your order, and usually it just goes by. It usually never takes longer than 20 minutes or like 25 minutes to get your order done, unless there's some like complication with it. But otherwise, it's really quick to drive through.
So do you think In-N-Out creates a safe work environment for you to work?
Definitely. Like I said, they take all the necessary precautions. We wash our hands basically every 2 hours. So they'll have us, for example, if I'm working on fries or something like that, and they want me to switch, I take off my gloves, throw them in the trash, wash my hands for the 20 seconds, and then I put my new gloves back on, and then I'll go somewhere else and make sure that I have my mask on and everything secure like that.
So you're still serving as a fast food or as a fast food drive-through employee. So based on your opinion, would you have seen the number of cars arriving increase or decrease? Has business suffered during this time?
I'd say we've taken, I guess, a slight hit as far as the normal amount of like cars and people we get in through our drive-through or in our dining room. Our dining room has definitely like suffered. I mean, our profits are definitely taking a hit, but overall we are still, I guess, in the green uh as far as making money through like drive-through orders. The popularity of our drive-through has definitely increased, and um, I'd say like 95% of the people that come through our drive-through are actually taking the necessary precautions. Like wearing the face mask. Sometimes they'll wear gloves, like when taking their food, or like they'll make sure that they don't touch like anything that we like give them. So like for example, for our like card reader, like we'll make sure that they don't have to like touch the card reader or anything, or like touch anything that like we give to them except for the food. um but I would say our drive through has increased in popularity, but our overall profits have taken a slight hit, I'd say.
Okay, so just we want to think about the future a little bit, all right? So imagine the food industry, let's say 1 year, 5 years, or 10 years after the coronavirus pandemic. What do you anticipate, or do you anticipate any changes that are going to happen because of the coronavirus pandemic? Maybe some like protocol changes, maybe more cleanliness. What do you expect?
Yeah, I think the food industry is definitely going to take more precaution as far as um how sanitary the workplace should be, because there weren't really a lot of like, I guess, precautions. Like we were supposed to wear gloves for certain tasks, but not for all of them. But now we have to wear gloves for all of them, and I think that's going to stay this. I think that's going to stay the same. I think that's really what's going to stick is the gloves and all of the like hand washing and everything like that. Um, I think there's throughout. I think, yeah, definitely throughout the food industry, there's going to be a lot of changes that are here now that will stay, but there's also more things that will come through the food industry as time goes on.
Great. Thanks, Gunnar. Is there any place we can find you if our viewers want to contact you? Any social medias?
Yeah,
So,
I don't know if you want to like link it or anything, but my Instagram is gunnar.apple3. You can also like you'll probably find me working at In-N-Out if you want to like talk to me or something like that. You'll probably like find me working on something. But otherwise, really, my Instagram is the best way to contact me if you want to like get to know more about like what I do at In-N-Out and stuff like that.
I thank you so much for coming on the podcast. We really appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. All right.